I'm an old fella now, but at one time I was quite a bit younger, as witnessed the picture on the right. And that's the USS Twiggs on the left. Now, I started my career soon after I graduated from, my Navy career, soon after I graduated from McCaskey. I was in the class of 42 when the Pearl Harbor happened, and my dad told me about the trench warfares in France in World War I, and I desperately didn't want to go into something as messy as that. I thought I wanted the Navy, and because you either have a nice clean bed to crawl into or nothing at all, and that's pretty much the way it did work out. Like I say, I was in class of 42 when Pearl Harbor happened, and when I graduated, Navy enlistments were closed. Of course, I had a draft card or draft number, and they were getting pretty close to my number, and I was pretty sure that they would put me in the Army. As a matter of fact, the reason Navy enlistments were closed then is because there were no training facilities available at that time. They were all filled up. So until Sampson, New York came online, there wasn't anything available. Well, as soon as it came online, there was a chance for enlistment. I think it was the first day of 43. And yes, and I think there was enlistments for 20 people, and there must have been 40 people ahead of me. And I thought, I'll never make this because quite a high number of the Columbia football team was ahead of me, and I thought they were pretty good athletes, but quite a few of them got rejected for one reason or another. And I did wind up getting into the Navy in 1943. That's just the first, I think it was the second day of the month, February or January. About that time, a keel was being laid, well, actually 2 keels in Charleston, South Carolina, and the hull numbers were 590 and 591. I didn't know it, of course, but it was soon to be my naval home for a while. The keel was to be a Fletcher-class destroyer, which is pictured here. The armament is 5-inch 38 rifles, 2 quintuple torpedo tubes. That means it's 5 torpedoes in each tube. So we had 10 torpedoes, and a lot of depth charges. I can't count those. So we were pretty well armed, but it was very light, a light ship. It didn't ride well in heavy water, so they called us tin can sailors. The name USS Twiggs was given to it, well, actually given to it by the first USS Twiggs, which was in World War I. It was launched prior to World War I, and it was one of the treaty ships that was commissioned and decommissioned as the treaty pacts so dictated. They kind of fooled around with it. It was commissioned several times. Anyways, it was named after Major Levi Twiggs, who was a hero of the Battle of Chapultepec, which is part of the Mexican War. They have a ceremony, or they have a gravestone down in one of Philadelphia's prominent cemeteries, and the three people on the left there, the one on your right, or would be me. The other two fellows have since deceased, but we were down there at that time. Well, anyways, I digress. When I finished boot camp in Sampson, New York, I was assigned to basic torpedo school in Newport, Rhode Island. I think it was about a 12-week program where we learned quite a bit about torpedoes. This is our torpedo class, I think. I don't know whether the mouse doesn't show. I think I'm second on your left, your right. That would be
right.
near the tail of the torpedo. Anyways, about the time I graduated from basic school, we had the christening of the two hulls that I talked about earlier, the 590 and the 591. They turned out to be the Paul Hamilton and the USS Twiggs. Eventually, I went on to, after basic torpedo school, I went on to advanced torpedo school in San Diego, California. Some of the best duty I ever had. There we went out. I have to tell you about torpedoes. Torpedoes are very expensive, or were at that time, and the torpedo was fired on several occasions to make sure that it ran correctly and everything was kosher about it. You put an exercise head on where the 900 pounds of Torpex normally would be, and this exercise head was filled with water, which simulated the warhead, and when it got down range, it would blow the water out of the head of the torpedo, and it would float. And they had a smoke pot, of electric light, and a lot of different ways of trying on dye. When the torpedo got to the end of its run, it dumped a lot of dye in the water, so a plane flying over could easily spot it. So they didn't want to lose it.
No.
So while I was in basic or advanced school, what we did was go out and pick up these torpedoes, bring them back to the repair facility, disassemble them, clean them up, and make them ready for the next shot. After I came back to the East Coast again, I was assigned to the ship on right, on your right, and that's the 591. And we were a plank owner. That means you went aboard at the commissioning ceremony, And so I was on the ship from its inception, or from its beginning to the end. Well, anyways, we ran out. We took our shakedown cruise to Bermuda, and over Christmas time, and I thought I was lucky enough to get Liberty at Christmas. So I went into, I still can't remember the name of the town in Bermuda, but it's the main town in Bermuda. Hamilton, exactly. Thank you. And at that time, at Christmas, they put up their hurricane fence in front of their shops. So it was kind of like walking down a board fence on both sides of the street. You couldn't even window shop. So we finally ended up at the USO, and it wasn't that great. But on our way back to the ship, they had an air raid scare. It was just a scare. Nothing ever happened, and nothing ever came of it. But we were out on the water in a small boat, and they shepherded us over to another ship, and I think they were going to take us aboard, but I don't think they ever did. Anyways, it was well after the time that I should have returned that I finally got back to the ship. Too late for supper, so it wasn't a great Christmas. But they did give us something to eat. That was all right. When we finished our shakedown cruise, we went back to Charleston, of course, for a few refits and so forth, and updating, and then moved up to Norfolk, Virginia, where we helped train nucleus crews for other oncoming destroyers. There we picked up the Big Ben, which was a big aircraft carrier, and that's the Ben Franklin, by the way. I know what Big Ben is, but you probably don't. We escorted it around through the canal, and believe me, if they'd had another coat of paint on there, they'd have never gotten through the canal. But they made it, and so did we, and we left it at Honolulu, the naval base, and we went on about our business, and Ben Franklin went about theirs. Some of our business was pretty exciting, and we joined in most of the battles in the Pacific. We were in quite a few of them. But we were pretty lucky. We went through about 4 invasions and without getting a scratch. We did pretty well. We went through Iwo Jima, which I was able to see them raise the Stars and Stripes over Mount Suribachi. Mount Suribachi was a dead volcano, an extinct volcano in the Bonin Islands, and the Japanese had that pretty well tunneled with with a lot of bunkers and so forth. The night before this flag was raised, I think the flag was raised on the second day of the invasion. or maybe it was the third, I'm not certain anymore. But we had eliminated the Mount Suribachi because there was a lot of attacks by the Japanese during the night. Now, of course, naval ships are supposed to be lights out, no lighting at all. So it really felt strange to turn on our big searchlights, and it made you unease. But and the next morning we found a few 50 caliber or 20 caliber, 25 caliber, I believe, Japanese shells. They had used a smaller bore shell than we did. People were firing at our searchlights and doing a pretty good job of it, but by the time the bullets got there, they were done. They were expended. You could no longer do any harm. I don't think it would even penetrate the skin if it hit you, but nobody was hit. But we did find 4 or 5 of them laying around on the deck.